Welcome to Wrong Time Watch. My name is Kevin, and today we're looking at the Oris Aquis in the Sinn U50. The Oris is in on loan from Saltzmans, and since I have this watch in on loan, I figured I'd compare it to the Sinn U50, which I do own in my personal collection. The price for the Oris with the Calibre 400 on the rubber strap is $3,300, and this is the Sinn U50-T SDR, which is fully tegimented. This is one of the more expensive models. They do have some more expensive versions of this watch, but this watch on the silicone strap is $3,040, and on the H-Link bracelet here it is $3,110. All right, let's go over the dimensions here. Oris, we're looking at 50 millimeter lug to lug and 43.5 at the bezel. And you can also get this in the 41.5 model, which is 41.5 at the bezel, and I believe it is 48 lug to lug. Just going off of measurements I found online. I saw the thickness of the 41 is measured at 13, but this one here I measured at 13.4. I would imagine they're both the same, but again, I don't have the other model in hand to tell you. And strap width up here, we're looking at 44 on this kind of an integrated bracelet style here, and it does taper down to 18 millimeter, and we have a 7.5 millimeter crown. It's a nice crown size, very easy to grip and get a hold of. So let's look at the U50 here. So the Sinn U50, we're looking at 47.4 lug to lug on the bracelet. It does have a female center link there, but it doesn't fully articulate down, so it does stick out a little bit farther, but I did not measure that. So 47.4. And then the bezel on this is 41 millimeter. The thickness is nice and thin at 11.2 millimeter. And the bracelet starts at 20 and tapers down to 18 millimeter. And this does have a 6 millimeter crown, which is at the 4 o'clock position. And it is signed as well with the S. The Oris was also signed, is also signed. So I did actually purchase a silicone strap for the Sinn. I didn't put it back on there because I prefer it on the bracelet, but this is the silicone strap, and we can compare and contrast these two here. I really like this rubber strap on the Oris. It's not super thin, but it's thin enough. This silicone strap is really thick. Let me put it this way so you can see the thickness difference here. So it is thicker up here, but it does thin down as you come down towards the clasp. And I prefer the clasp on the Oris a little better. So this is a tegimented clasp. I believe this is $360 retail from Watch Buys. This portion here is stamped, and then this is a milled clasp. Kind of an interesting design. It does have a quick release of sorts. I think I can pry this up. Maybe not on video, but you can pry this up and then you can slide this strap in and out. But you do need to cut it to size to fit your wrist. And if you ever sell it, well, if you have a small wrist like me, if you ever sell it, you're kind of limited for your selling options. You can buy the new silicone itself. I think it's about $200 just for the silicone portion. Maybe it's a little bit less. I don't exactly remember. Anyway, let's set this off to the side, and then we can take a look at the clasp here on the Oris. So this also has a milled clasp. This portion here, I believe that's milled. Yeah, that has to be milled as well. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Hopefully the camera will focus a little better. But as you can see here, you don't need to cut this portion of the strap. You just snake it through the deployant here, It does have these two pegs to retain the strap on here. And then over on this side, there is an option. You can cut this to size it a little smaller. I have a 6.5-inch wrist, and if this was my watch, I would have to cut out one of these to size it to my wrist, but you still have a lot of adjustment to play with here. And it does have an on-the-fly adjustment here too. Works very easily, very simply. I have not seen a system like this before. Only downside to this is I have on occasion, when taking this off wrist, I push these in and take it off wrist instead of the pushers here, but not really a big deal. I'm sure you get used to that. I have in the past complained about the thickness of the Sinn clasp, but it looks very similar in thickness to this Oris deployant system as well. So maybe that's just the way it has to be. All right, let's get back into the watches. We went over the dimensions. So let's talk about some of the specs. The Oris is rated to 300 meter water resistance, and the Sinn is 500 meters. So very impressive with the Sinn, especially considering it's 11.2 millimeter thick versus 13.4 on the Oris. So it's a little more than 2 millimeter thinner than the Oris. It's kind of just deceptive here, but yeah, the Oris does look thicker. They both have sapphire crystal. The Oris has a ceramic bezel insert, and the Sinn has the tegimented bezel. It's all in one piece. Tegimenting is a hardening process, and it increases the hardness of the steel so that it's 5 times harder than steel. It's 1,200 on the Vickers scale. I don't know what ceramic is, but I would imagine ceramic is more scratch resistant than the steel, but the steel is definitely more shatter resistant than ceramic. Both of these have a date. Date on this one is down at the 12 o'clock. They are both color matched. The dates blend in very well on both of these watches. I prefer the 6 o'clock versus the 3 o'clock. I think it's a little better done on the Oris. This Oris just has a very amazing dial. I find myself staring at this dial. The Sinn's just very basic. It's a tool watch. How we get legibility to the Sinn though, it's easier to pick out the hands and the time with these big old Lego style or Minecraft style hands. Actually, both of these watches are anti-magnetic as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Sinn is. I didn't look that up. Let's see if it says on the case back. I believe the U50 does have some anti-magnetism. I don't know for sure exactly, but I know the Oris does. With this Calibre 400 movement, it is anti-magnetic to about 200 Gauss. All right, let's talk about the movements now. The Oris does have the in-house Calibre 400 movement, and that is a $1,300 price premium. The Sinn U50 has the SW300-1 movement. Oris is rated to 120 hours of power reserve. Take a quick look at the movement here. It does have this quick release clasp system, bracelet system. So there's a look at the movement here. It does have these two mainspring barrels, which gives you the 120 hours of power reserve. And the Sinn just has a, well, you can't see the movement, but the Sinn SW300-1 movement is good for about 42 hours of power reserve. So the Oris will have 3 times the power reserve of the Sinn. Also, the Oris it meets the cost standards, but it is not officially certified as cost. So for accuracy, this is accurate to -3 + 5 seconds and cost is -4 plus 6. So this is technically a little better than the cost standards, but they did not have it rated for the cost certification. What is cost? I don't remember the acronym. I think it's a French word, but French words. But anyway, it's basically you put the movement in certain positions and you check the accuracy of the movement. All right, let me get both of these on wrist, and then we can check out the Lume. I think I've covered all of the specifications I wanted to cover. So I don't know if you're in the market for one or the other, if you would choose one over the other watch. They're quite a bit different. This is definitely more of a dressy watch. It's a nicer looking watch, but you know, that's subjective. You might like the look of this tool watch here, this Sinn U50. Take a closer look at the dial here. I like how it says automatic with a K at the end. Let me move the handset real quick. Nope, and the second hand's in the way. So there, automatic. 500 meter 50 bar, and you can see around the 6 o'clock indice there, made in Germany, which is printed in black. Sorry, you can see my fingerprints on there. Let me set the time kind of close back to where it was before for the Lume comparison here in a moment. So I'll get both of these on wrist. I really like this rubber strap over this silicone strap. This thing's just too thick. It wasn't really comfortable for me. This H-link bracelet's not the most comfortable, so I figured I would try it on the silicone, and I still prefer it on the H-link. So here it is again on my 6.5-inch wrist. Definitely a better fit for my wrist with this. I think it was 47.4 lug to lug. The Oris is not too bad either, but if I were to buy one for myself, I would definitely go with the 41.5 to match my smaller wrist. Even with the negatives to this watch, at least for me, the negatives, I still like this watch. It's very cool. The anti-reflective coating and that flat crystal, the crystal basically just disappears on this watch. There, you can get some reflection here, but for the most part, really don't see much reflection. All right, let me zoom out here a little bit. I don't know what we'll see in the background. And yes, the bezel is slightly misaligned. I did find out how to fix this, and I'll probably try and fix it one of these days here. I was going to send it back to have it corrected, but apparently you can take the bezel off, and there's a spring in there that you can just move it to different pegs, different cutouts. So I'll try that one of these days. All right, let's get the Oris on wrist. We'll stay zoomed out here, and then we'll zoom back in for a little close-up. There we go. That dial is gorgeous. Yeah, I would say this is too big for my wrist, but you know, everybody has different preferences. And you can see I would have to cut some of this. I probably would just take out one section and then it would fit my wrist pretty well. But it's not my watch, so I will not be cutting the strap. Very well done with this watch. I really do like it. I do have mixed feelings on the lugs, but you know, that's the watch. You see this case and these lugs, you would know that it is an Oris Aquis. All right, I'll pause the video and we'll come right back and check out the Lume. I have not compared these myself, so looking forward to it. All right, so on the left we have the Oris Aquis, and on the right, Sinn U50. Now, normally I lay these on the table, but with the bracelet and strap, I can't do that. So I'm holding these by hand. Hopefully I can hold them steady enough. Yeah, as far as which one is brighter, you know, it's hard to say. I would say they're pretty close. I would say the Oris is maybe a little brighter, but the U50 has larger indices and more lume applied to that handset. So I would say it's a wash. But you know, each watch has its plus and a minus. Power reserve on the Oris is amazing, and then the Sinn is nice and thin, and it does have the tegimented bezel and bracelet and case. But if you wanted to save a little money, you could go with the non-tegimented version of the Sinn U50. I forgot the price of that off the top of my head, but I believe it's about $2,200 if I remember correctly. But also for the Oris, you can save $1,300 if you go with the model with the SW200 movement. I think that's $2,000 on the rubber. So, as always, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Lastly, if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. I'd greatly appreciate it. And that'll be it. Thanks. Bye.